All right, so today we're going to be exploring personal finance,
Okay.
but with a twist.
Interesting.
We're not going to be focusing on numbers or, stock picks or anything like that.
Gotcha.
Instead, we're going to be diving deep into the psychology of money.
Okay, I like it.
We're going to be unpacking Morgan Housel's The Psychology of Money
Oh, that's a great book.
to really understand why the human side of finance
Mm-hmm.
is often way more important than, what shows up on our spreadsheets.
It really is.
Oh, yeah.
We often treat money decisions
Right.
as, purely rational.
Uh,
But, all of our emotions and experiences play a huge role
Absolutely.
in shaping how we even think about money
Totally.
and handle money.
So to kick things off,
Yeah.
Housel starts with this story
Okay.
about this tech genius
Mm-hmm.
who made millions from Wi-Fi technology,
Wow.
but then went on to make a bunch of really questionable financial decisions,
Okay.
like bragging about carrying around stacks of cash.
Like, haven't we all seen that in the movies?
It's like a movie trope, right?
Yeah.
So what is the point that Housel's trying to make here,
It's not about judging this person's choices.
right?
It's more about recognizing that our personal histories with money
Mm-hmm.
really shape our financial outlook
Okay.
more than we even realize.
So true.
Like, think about someone like John F. Kennedy.
Right.
His family was wealthy during the Depression,
Right.
but he didn't really understand the struggles of everyday people
Interesting.
until much later.
So even someone as intelligent as JFK
Right.
was influenced by, his own limited experience.
It's powerful.
Wow.
That's right.
Yeah. This is all starting to connect for me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or
lead on.
consider, people who lived through the high inflation of the 1970s
Yeah.
might be really wary of bonds today,
Makes sense.
whereas someone who grew up, with more stable prices might feel completely different.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
It's all about the stories we tell ourselves about money
Right.
based on what we've lived through.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But what about something like the lottery?
Okay.
Why do people who can't even afford an emergency spend money on lottery tickets?
Mm-hmm.
That seems totally irrational.
It might seem that way on the surface,
Right.
but we all make decisions that, might seem crazy to others,
Yeah.
but they make perfect sense to us at the time.
That's true.
We rationalize these choices with stories often shaped by our past.
Right.
It's like when you thought, oh, if I just had a little more money, all my problems would be solved.
Oh, my gosh. All the time.
Right.
Yes.
It's like the lottery taps right into that feeling.
It totally does.
Exactly. And that's why understanding our own motivations and biases
Yeah.
is so crucial.
So important.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Housel tells a story about Bill Gates
Mm-hmm.
and his best friend from high school, Kent Evans.
Okay.
Both, incredibly bright,
Yeah.
driven guys. Gates, as we all know, becomes a billionaire,
Right.
but Evans tragically dies young in a climbing accident.
Wow.
So this anecdote
Yeah.
really highlights how much luck and risk are intertwined.
It does.
We tend to look at someone like Bill Gates and attribute his success
Right.
solely to his talent.
Yeah.
But what about all the other brilliant people
Mm-hmm.
who never reach that level of wealth?
Exactly. It's like we're only seeing the outcome,
Right.
but not all those other factors that contribute to that outcome,
Totally.
including the role of luck.
Are you saying it's not just about being smart
That's right.
or working hard?
Yep.
There's this element of chance involved.
Absolutely. We focus so much on the outcome,
Yeah.
but we don't see all the factors that contribute to them,
Yeah.
including that, that role of luck.
Have you ever looked at someone's success and thought, if only I had their luck?
Oh my God, all the time.
Right, me too.
Yeah.
I guess we don't see the risks they took
Mm-hmm.
or the setbacks that they faced along the way. That's right.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to be aware of this luck-risk dynamic, both when we're, judging ourselves and others.
Absolutely. Like Housel says, quoting Robert Schiller,
Okay.
what do you want to know about investing that we can't know? The exact role of luck in successful outcomes.
Okay, so how do we actually apply this insight to our own financial lives?
Well, it starts with recognizing our own biases.
Okay.
Are we blaming ourselves for things that might have been totally outside our control?
Uh-huh.
Are we taking unnecessary risks because we overestimate the role of skill?
That's a good point.
Right.
I'm starting to see how powerful this can be.
Yeah.
We need to acknowledge the role of luck and risk, but we also need to be smart about how we approach our finances.
Exactly.
So what about this idea of getting rich quick versus slow and steady growth?
Well, Housel uses the contrasting stories of John Bogle, founder of Vanguard, and Jesse Livermore, a legendary stock trader, to really illustrate this point, right? Bogle was all about index funds.
Yes.
And that slow and steady compounding over decades.
Exactly. And Livermore was known for making these huge, risky bets in the market, riding the waves of booms and busts.
So he was like the ultimate get-rich-quick guy?
Exactly. But the problem is he ended up losing everything later on.
Oh, wow.
Bogle, on the other hand, saw his wealth steadily grow through the power of compound interest.
That's a pretty clear example of how patience can pay off in the long run.
It really is.
Okay.
Housel actually dives deep into the power of compounding, using Warren Buffett's journey as an example.
Okay.
Imagine if Buffett had started investing just 10 years later in his life.
Do you think he'd still be the legendary investor that we know today?
Well, his wealth would be drastically different.
Wow.
It really underscores how time is the investor's greatest ally.
Interesting.
Let me put it this way. If you invested $1,000 today at a 7% annual return, in 30 years, it could be worth over $7,000.
Wow, that's the power of compounding.
That's right. That's compounding working for you.
That's way more powerful than I even realized.
Yeah.
So even small, consistent savings can really add up over time.
Absolutely.
It makes you rethink those get-rich-quick schemes.
Yeah, exactly. Time and consistency are key.
Yeah.
Just like with anything worthwhile in life.
I like that.
Right.
Okay, so shifting gears a bit.
Okay.
Let's talk about what money actually buys us.
Yeah.
Is it all about fancy cars and vacations, or is there something deeper?
You know, ultimately, the greatest value of money lies in giving you control over your time and options.
I had this experience as an investment banking intern where the pay was incredible, but I was working around the clock.
Oh, wow.
I had no control over my schedule.
Right.
And I realized that wasn't the life I wanted.
That's a crucial insight.
Yeah.
Many people strive for these high incomes without even considering the trade-offs in terms of freedom and flexibility.
So it's not just about the money itself. Yeah. It's about what that money allows you to do.
Exactly. Imagine having the ability to take time off when you're sick, wait for a better job offer, or pursue a passion project without constantly worrying about finances.
That's real freedom.
That's right. That's freedom.
Okay. So that brings us to the difference between being rich and being wealthy.
Yes.
Is someone driving a flashy car necessarily wealthy?
Not at all. Someone can have a high income and be rich.
Okay.
But if they're spending it all, they might not have much actual wealth. Wealth is having that financial security and assets that give you options and control over your future.
I love that quote from Rihanna's financial advisor.
Oh, yeah.
If you spend money on things, you end up with things, not money.
It's so true. Well, wealth is often invisible. It's what you don't spend. It's having that financial cushion that allows you to make choices aligned with your values and goals.
Which leads us to the importance of saving. It seems like common sense. But Housel argues that many people either don't think they can save or don't see the need for it.
And he offers a really helpful perspective here.
Okay.
Saving is like energy efficiency.
Interesting.
It's not just about having more. It's about needing less. By reducing our expenses and living within our means, we free up more money to save and invest.
So it's about being more mindful of our spending habits.
Yes.
And making sure they align with our long-term goals.
That's right.
I can definitely relate to that.
Absolutely. And there's this powerful concept in the book that really drives this point home.
What is it?
Saving is the gap between your ego and your income.
So you're saying our desire to spend to impress others can sabotage our ability to save?
It definitely can.
And that's where humility plays a big role.
Yes.
In financial success.
Right. If you're content with what you have, you're less likely to fall into that trap of keeping up with the Joneses.
Totally. And that contentment can actually lead to more financial freedom in the long run.
Yeah, it reduces stress.
Yeah.
It minimizes comparisons.
I like it.
And ultimately, it gives you more control over your time and choices.
All right, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
okay,
let's touch on a concept that I find particularly intriguing.
All right.
The idea of embracing reasonable over rational when it comes to money.
Housel uses this fascinating story about a doctor who cured syphilis by intentionally giving patients malaria.
Wait, what? That sounds incredibly risky.
It was, but sometimes the most rational choices, like always trying to maximize returns, might not be the best for our overall well-being.
So you're saying it's okay to prioritize peace of mind and long-term sustainability.
Exactly.
Even if it means slightly lower returns on paper.
Precisely, as Housel puts it, aim to just be pretty reasonable. Reasonable is more realistic.
Wow. I never thought about it that way. That story about the doctor really makes me question.
Yeah.
What rational even means when it comes to personal finance?
It's a good reminder that sometimes the best financial decisions are the ones that allow us to sleep well at night.
That's true.
Even if they don't perfectly align with textbook theories.
All right, that wraps up part 1 of our deep dive into the psychology of money.
Great.
We've explored the influence of personal histories, the interplay of luck and risk, the power of compounding, and the importance of finding freedom in our financial choices.
Absolutely. And in part 2, we'll delve into the perils of prediction, the influence of narratives, and how to navigate the psychological roller coaster of bubbles and pessimism.
Stay tuned. Welcome back. Last time we were really exploring how our past experiences and even our egos can impact our relationship with money.
It's true.
Now we're going to tackle something that both fascinates and terrifies me. The world of predictions.
Yeah. It's a tricky subject for sure.
Right.
And Housel doesn't hold back. Yeah.
He basically comes right out and says that most economic and market forecasts are just terrible.
Ouch. That's got to be a tough pill to swallow for those people who base their investments on trying to predict the future.
Right.
So why are we so bad at it?
Well, one reason is that, we tend to rely too heavily on history.
Okay.
As a guide, we think, well, this is how the market behaved in the past.
Right.
So it'll probably do the same thing this time around. But the problem is, the financial landscape is constantly changing.
Right. Like the way people save for retirement today is totally different than it was a few decades ago with, the rise of 401ks.
Right. And then you've got the explosion of venture capital and the role of technology.
Right.
It's a whole new ball game.
It's like a whole different world, right?
Exactly. And all these factors, make historical data less reliable as a predictor of the future.
And then there's the wild card of human behavior.
Oh, my gosh. Yes.
Our emotions, our biases, our reactions to events can create these ripple effects that are nearly impossible to model.
So even with all the fancy algorithms and data analysis, we can't fully predict what's going to happen.
Right.
Because people are inherently unpredictable.
That's a big part of it.
Okay.
Like, Housel quotes Daniel Kahneman saying, "The correct lesson to learn from surprises is that the world is surprising."
I love that quote.
Right.
So if we can't rely on predictions, how do we approach investing and financial planning in a way that feels safe?
That's where the idea of room for error comes in.
Okay.
Housel uses this great analogy from the world of blackjack.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So even the most skilled card counters in Vegas know they can't predict every card that's going to come up. They have a strategy, but they also accept that there's always a chance that things won't go according to plan.
So it's about having a backup plan.
Right. A cushion to absorb those unexpected turns. Exactly. They leave themselves room for error.
Okay.
So even if they hit a losing streak, they can stay in the game.
I see.
And we can apply the same concept to our own finances.
So how would that look in practice?
Well, it could mean having enough cash on hand to weather market downturns without panicking. It could mean saving more than you think you'll need for retirement.
Right.
Or avoiding taking on excessive debt.
Okay.
That could wipe you out if things go south.
It's almost like having a financial safety net.
It is. Okay. And it's not about being pessimistic. It's about being realistic.
Yep.
Uncertainty is a fact of life, especially when it comes to money.
So we've talked about predictions, luck, risk, and this idea of, room for error.
Right.
Now, I want to get into something that I think is particularly fascinating.
Okay.
The power of narratives.
Oh, yeah. Housel has this really thought-provoking thought experiment. To illustrate this, he asks us to imagine an alien visiting Earth in 2007.
Okay.
And then again in 2009.
Okay, I'm picturing it. What happens next?
Well, the alien would probably notice that the physical economy hadn't really changed all that much.
Right, the factories are still standing.
Right.
People still have their, skills and knowledge.
Exactly.
But something massive has shifted.
It has.
It's the stories that we're telling ourselves about the economy.
Yes.
So you're saying the reality on the ground was relatively similar, But our perception of it had completely changed.
Exactly. In 2007, everyone was talking about the booming housing market, the stability of the financial system, the potential for endless growth. But by 2009, the story had become one of panic, fear, and impending collapse.
And the shift in narrative actually contributed to the economic downturn.
It played a huge role. It really highlights how powerful narratives are in shaping not only our individual financial decisions, but the entire economy as well.
It makes you realize how much we're influenced by the stories we hear. Whether it's from news headlines, expert opinions, or even conversations with friends and family.
It's everywhere.
It's all around us.
And it's so important to be aware of these influences. Because those narratives, affect how we feel about our own finances, how we invest, how much risk we're willing to take, and even how much we spend.
That's a lot of power.
It is a lot of power.
So how do we become more discerning about the narratives we're absorbing and make sure our own decisions are based on, sound reasoning, not just fear or hype?
It starts with questioning the stories we're being told.
Okay.
Are they based on facts and evidence? Or are they driven by emotions and biases? We need to be critical thinkers. And, make sure our financial choices align with our own values and goals.
I like that.
Not the whims of the crowd.
Okay, so now let's zoom in on a specific type of narrative. The stories we tell ourselves during bubbles and periods of pessimism.
Housel explains that our desire for things to be true can lead us to overestimate the odds of those things actually happening. We seek out information that confirms our existing beliefs, even if those beliefs are based more on wishful thinking than reality.
Oh, I've totally seen that play out. Like during the dot-com bubble, when investors poured money into companies with no profits and unsustainable business models because they were so convinced the internet was going to change everything.
That's a classic example. And on the flip side, when economic pessimism dominates the news, it's easy to get swept up in those fears of an impending collapse. Even though, history has shown that human ingenuity and adaptation have consistently overcome challenges in the past.
So it's about being aware of our own biases, recognizing when our emotions might be clouding our judgment and making sure we're not clinging to narratives that, make us feel good, but might not be grounded in reality.
Precisely. It's tough to stay objective when so much is at stake. But by, being mindful of our own tendencies, we can make more informed and resilient financial decisions.
This has been a fascinating discussion so far.
Yeah, it really has.
I feel like I'm starting to view the financial world through a whole new lens. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into the psychology of money. It's amazing how much we've uncovered about, the hidden forces that shape our financial decisions.
It really is. And in these last few chapters, Housel brings it all together with some really powerful insights about long-term thinking, accepting what we can't control. And, finding contentment in a world that's so obsessed with more.
I'm ready to hear it. Where do we start?
Well, he shares this really compelling story about Bernie Madoff, the mastermind behind, one of the biggest financial scandals in history.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what's so interesting is that before the Ponzi scheme, Madoff had already built a successful, legitimate business.
So he didn't need to commit fraud.
Exactly. He had more than enough wealth to live comfortably.
Wow.
But, he got caught up in this relentless pursuit of more. It's driven by his ego and the desire to maintain an image of success. Even if it meant, breaking the law and ultimately ruining countless lives.
It's a cautionary tale about the dangers of letting our egos drive our financial decisions.
It really is. And Housel argues that one of the hardest financial skills is getting the goalpost to stop moving.
Oh, I know that feeling all too well. You hit a certain level of success and then suddenly you're striving for the next milestone, the next bigger house, the next fancier car. It never ends.
It's that trap of social comparison. We're constantly measuring ourselves against others, which fuels, this never-ending cycle of wanting more.
And as you said earlier, it's a game we can never truly win.
We can't. There's always going to be someone richer. Someone with a bigger yacht, someone who seems to have it all.
Right. So how do we break free from that trap?
Well, Housel suggests, focusing on what truly matters to us, aligning our financial goals with our values, and finding contentment in what we already have.
He talks about the importance of having enough.
Yeah.
But that concept can be so elusive in a culture that, constantly pushes us to want more.
It's true, but it's about recognizing that true wealth isn't measured by the size of our bank accounts.
Okay.
But by the freedom and flexibility we have to live a life that's meaningful to us. What are your goals?
Yeah.
What brings you joy and fulfillment?
Those are great questions.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's about, having the time and resources to pursue my passions, spend quality time with loved ones, and, make a positive impact on the world.
Those are wonderful aspirations, and they highlight how money can be a tool to achieve those things, rather than the end goal itself.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So how do we shift our mindset to, focus on these deeper values?
Well, Housel encourages us to be wary of getting too attached to our reputations, accomplishments, or, material possessions.
Okay.
He actually quotes a businessman named Rajat Gupta,
Okay.
who, after, facing some legal troubles, really reflected on the fleeting nature of these external markers of success.
So it's about finding security and contentment from within.
Exactly.
Rather than seeking validation from the outside world.
That's it. It's about recognizing that true wealth lies in our relationships, our experiences, and our contributions to the world.
Right.
Not in the things we own or the status we hold.
That's such a powerful perspective shift.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the psychology of money, what are some, key takeaways our listeners can apply to their own lives?
Well, first, remember that you are not a spreadsheet. You're a complex human being with emotions, biases, and experiences that inevitably influence your financial decisions.
Right. It's okay to not always be perfectly rational.
That's right. Sometimes the best choices are the ones that bring us peace of mind and, align with our values.
Absolutely. Second, embrace the long game.
Yes.
Time is your greatest ally when it comes to building wealth.
It is.
Focus on slow, steady growth through saving and investing consistently.
Right.
Rather than chasing those quick wins that often lead to disappointment.
So true.
And third, remember that wealth is what you don't see.
That's right.
It's the financial freedom and flexibility to live a life on your terms.
Absolutely.
Resist the urge to spend to impress others. And prioritize building a future that's aligned with your definition of a good life.
That's it. And finally, be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
We all make financial mistakes.
We do.
The key is to learn from them, adapt our strategies, and keep moving forward.
The psychology of money has been a real eye-opener.
Yeah.
Reminding us that personal finance is about so much more than just numbers.
It really is.
It's about understanding ourselves, our motivations, and our relationship with money.
By exploring these deeper psychological aspects, we can make more informed, resilient, and ultimately more fulfilling financial choices.
Right.
It's about aligning your money with your values and using it as a tool to create a life you love.
This has been such an insightful conversation.
That is.
I feel like I have a whole new framework for thinking about money.
That's great.
Thanks to everyone for joining us on this deep dive into the psychology of money. We hope you found it as valuable as we have.